and Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political.
Welcome to the Lawyer's Den. On behalf of International Broadcast Media, IBM Television, I'm Bill Tresvant. I'm a co-host. And I am here this evening with a collection of my cool friends who are smart, kind of controversial, a little agitated from time to time. But what we promise is an open and candor and disagreeable kind of conversation. So right now, I'm looking out there in the world and I'm looking for Nick. Nick, where are you?
I've arrived, Bill. I'm here.
All right. Welcome, Nick. How do you want to proceed, Nick?
Well, we're going to have to bring in some real lawyers to the den to go over some legal issues as we're being broadcast all over the world. And for those people who feel you're insulted by some of the things we said, welcome to the practice of law. So with that, this gentleman actually,
right?
You're insulted. Okay, all right. This person actually comes from Fordham University, and then afterward, he graduated from Fordham. He then went on to receive his law degree at the State University of New York at Buffalo. Then he went to go practice law in the big city, otherwise known as New York City. We have our own street fighter. Welcome, Fernando. Yeah.
Hey guys,
Fernando.
Nice to be back. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. You know, of course, now the thing is we have another person coming in from the den. He went to the University of Southern California, received his bachelor's degree, then went to the Ohio State University where he received a law degree. He also attended the University of Alabama where he received a master's degree. And then he went and received a master's in law, which is a teaching degree from New York University. And then he went on to taught law school at the Indiana Tech School of Law and now teaches at Georgia College. Let's bring in our Professor Adam Lamparero.
Thanks, Nick. Great to be here.
Yes. And all you'll get out of me is a good introduction. And then it's over, Adam. Okay, yeah. But the thing is, now we have to bring in some class to the den. And the class we had to reach across the pond, Lithuania. And then from Lithuania, she came to the United States of America, received her doctorate degree in law from University of Denver, then received her master's in law from the University of Denver, and now practices law in the great state of Florida. Let's bring in the class of our class, Guidry Stantonai. Dosadonia. Or... Yes, Dosadonia, I guess. Duper Uno or Duper Ding or whatever the heck. Yeah, get over it.
I guess we're going to have a good discussion today.
Я хотел что-нибудь Thais. Spasiba. Okay, so with this next one, we bring in this gentleman from BYU University in Provo, Utah. They received a master's in law from George Washington University. Our constitutional scholar. Let's bring in our appellate practitioner, Jeff Taggart. Jeff, welcome to the show. And then now that we have our den established, yes, we have a den master also went to Fordham University and the State University of New York at Buffalo. Let's bring in the Honorable William Tresvant. Yes, and he's licensed to practice law too.
Kind of.
Okay, he's timeless. Well, that might be true too. But he also gives us what we're going to be talking about today. So, Bill, what is up on the den for today?
Well, Nick. I mean, not without beginning to let our audience know the august, intelligent person that you are, two-time state champion at chess, appellate court aficionado, attorney in your own right, mogul, and generally an all-around good guy. So
you can fool all the people all the time. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, listen, we have an exciting topic.
Yeah, exciting topic. What is our exciting topic?
No, we do, because I mean, this just involves money and sports, and it's not sports betting. Yes, sports, Nick.
On law? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sports, law, and it doesn't involve betting. It is simply this. I mean, the question has always been out there. and it's been increasingly prominent that here in the United States, we have the NCAA. Almost slipped up. Sorry about that. We have the NCAA, which is our governing body dealing with the college sports. Now, they have been marketing and they have, turned profits utilizing student athletes. Now, what everybody is saying is that with the $1 billion, and most recently, they just last year signed, the NCAA signed a TV contract worth like $1.2 billion to televise just March Madness, which is just the basketball tournament. Everybody's saying that why can't the athletes get paid for their likeness, their image, or whatever it is? And lo and behold, after all these years, because these were rules that were set up almost 100 years ago, everybody's been asking, why can't this be done? Why shouldn't we do it? And it ended up in the Supreme Court. Now, to begin with, I want to turn to someone that I know that has a handle on at least the arguments, and that is Jeff. Jeff, can you bring our audience up to speed, please?
Well, I'll give you my best summary of it. The NCAA, interestingly enough, was represented by Seth Waxman, who our audience may not know that name, but he was Solicitor General of the United States in the Obama administration, which is the leading Supreme Court lawyer for the federal government. So very distinguished counsel. Mr. Waxman was arguing that antitrust courts lack the authority to define the central feature of the NCAA's pro-competitive product. And they were claiming that that their conduct is not anti-competitive because they have a different product from, say, the NFL. The NFL has professional athletes, and they're saying we offer amateur athletics. And so although we are requiring all universities to field teams of amateur athletes, really that's a different product from what the NFL is producing. And therefore, we're a competitive product for them. And I heard Justice Breyer argue, well, you can get away with murder by giving athletes hundreds of thousands of dollars in educational benefits. And under the lower court's decree, you can't limit how much educational benefit you can give to a student as long as it is reasonably tied to education. And he said, geez, I put them through law school, whatever.
No, Jeff, listen. The NCAA is making billions of dollars off these student athletes, and essentially it's free labor. Now, they say they're giving them the education, but what's one more student in a classroom of 30 or 32? So, I mean, that's no big deal. And then they limit everything else. But meanwhile, they are putting them on Madden, Xbox, and everything else. Jeff, come on. Listen, the student athletes, look, the NCAA is making money, and the university is getting paid, the coaches are getting paid, and the NCAA is saying we can't pay the students. Isn't that the issue, Jeff?
Well, I think the issue that the Supreme Court is considering is a little narrower than that. They're considering the lower court's decree, which says that the schools can give students any education-related benefit that they want, and that would include internships and things like that. It would include things like graduate school after their eligibility for playing is over with. And that's what Justice Breyer was saying. Well, gee, can we send them to law school or medical school? That's super expensive. Maybe that is a huge inducement for an athlete to come to your particular school.
Okay.
He didn't like that idea. The way that I count votes, Justices Kagan,
No, Jeff, we've got to go around the horn before you start counting votes. I mean, please, that's a little ahead of the stuff. I love your spirit, though. I'm really digging that. But I got to go. I'm going to go in this order because, Nick, you're always going to be at my. I got to go. Adam, Guidry, Fernando, and then Nick, you're going to make all kinds of sense for me. So, Adam, and then Guidry, and then Fernando.
Well, Before I address this important issue, I'd first like to extend my thank you to the law enforcement officer in Columbus, Ohio, who saved a life today, and extend my support to law enforcement. Now, on to this issue.
Adam, I will cut you off.
Student athletes get. Are you cutting me off again? This is very troubling.
No, fine. Student athletes. You were a student athlete.
Should student athletes get paid? Well, the first thing we know is that they do get paid by virtue of getting a free scholarship. And I'm going to propose a solution tonight that's going to solve this problem. What we need to do is we need to decouple athletics from universities. Instead, we need to have athletics sort of like a minor league system in all sports, so that universities are not so connected to athletics. That way they can get paid, and that way it won't be connected to universities. That's the solution, and that's the way we need to go.
Okay, fantastic. Deidre, please, your thoughts?
Well, NCAA says particularly that the focus is on providing educational benefits to all the athletes, ranging all kind of level athletes. And therefore, the main argument is if the student athletes are going to be paid for their physical performance, directly paid for their performance, that at that point, the amateur, the student sports, the raw sport, the grassroots sport would become a professional sport, the same that we have already in the league. And even now, it is worth of saying that even now with the NCAA rules that strictly regulates the methods, the ways, and the reasons for how the student could be compensated the educational benefit, multiple universities have been circumventing those regulations. And we have cases where universities were giving straight up money to the athletes, taking them on the yachts, buying houses to their family, giving an employment to the family members of the athletes. So it's still, so my point is, if NCAA is going to lose such regulatory control, what kind of effect it's going to have on the student, not professional, but student sport? And don't forget that there is a reason they are student athletes, not professional athletes. And in order to get a professional athlete, you have to work hard, you have to have a good coach, and sometimes really, or most of the times, not to get paid until you get a professional athlete.
And that is 100% right.
Okay, Adam, please. Fernando, and Fernando, I have a bit of a twist to the same question, and that is this. I know you can handle it. I mean, I'm not even worried about it. And that is this. That when we are considering whether or not to pay or whether or not athletes should get paid for their likeness or image and or other compensations, it is clear that the major sports, meaning basketball and football, produce so much revenue that it subsidizes all of the other sports like tennis and golf. And yet it seems to occur that there's a disparity in representation because the major sports, the majority of the athletes are people of color, whereas in tennis and golf and stuff, they're all white. Now, Fernando, what do you say, and how do you take that in a New York minute for our audience in the nation? Because you're there. How are you looking at it? Should I get paid for what I do, or should I just accept a biscuit and be done with it?
Students, athletes should not be paid. At these major programs, they are pampered and they are given pretty much everything. Now, you're right that some of this money does go off to pay for other sports, but the truth of the matter is nobody cares about tennis, golf, or any of the other sports that you mentioned, soccer, lacrosse. If it wasn't for football and basketball, they probably wouldn't exist because nobody cares and nobody watches them.
Fernando, that's what I mean. Okay, Nick, I'm just like you. I'm flabbergasted. Nick, your turn, please.
Well, of course, Fernando is smoking something in New York City, and okay, let's just get real. What's going on, Bill? You are on point on this. There is a racial component to this. There's just absolutely no question. But there's also a model that actually works. And I know. And let me tell you something. I played on the chess team, which had scholarships. I know that Adam was on the rowing team or whatever they do illegally at USC. Well, let me tell you how chess is organized, just for example, because chess scholarships exist in a lot of universities. Okay, chess is for smart people, and we get very few scholarships because they want to give scholarships to athletes. But There are programs like Webster University, University of Texas have chess scholarships. But as a player for the team, I was also allowed to compete in money tournaments and make money off of it. And you know what? That model has worked for years. I know it's funny, but yeah.
Because nobody cares about chess.
Okay, and then there are mental midgets like Fernando that don't understand that chess is played worldwide with 600 million people watching, and the top players make multi-millions per year. But mental midgets don't get that. The intelligent people know that it is a sport, it does work, and you're allowed to get paid. You need to bring that same model to football, basketball, and all the other sports.
Okay, well, no, Nick, I want to underscore one, just your point, just to be clear. With tennis players and golf players at the collegiate level, they were allowed to accept up to $10,000 for winning tournaments outside of their college activities, and yet not lose their amateur status. So there's a fundamental discrepancy, because there's not that same allowance for women's basketball, men's basketball, and men's football.
No, hey, Bill, this is a horrible system, and that's a horrible organization. The NCAA is absolutely horrible. It's repressive. They destroy young students that have ability. I think they should abolish the NCAA, and I definitely want to listen to Jeff to see what he thinks is going to happen. Yeah, because I can't wait till the NCAA gets popped where they belong.
Well, right now I'm going Jeff, and then Fernando, I'm coming to you because I heard you sighing heavily across the world. It's like the sigh that I heard from a walrus. Jeff first, and then Fernando, please.
Well, I think reading the tea leaves on which justices are going to vote which way is always hazardous business. Having said that, the best that I can read the tea leaves, Justices Kagan, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett seem to be headed in the direction of saying that you can provide, that your school can provide unlimited educational related benefits to athletes. That could mean you could send them to graduate school, you could supply them with housing, you can do pretty much anything as long as it's related to education. That seems to be where the majority of the court is going. And I know several of them expressed the concern that these kids that are student athletes, it's more athlete than student. They're working 40 to 60 hours a week before they ever go to class or crack a book. And they're getting lower grades. Their graduation rates are not particularly impressive. And at the end of the day, many don't make it in the pros. And in fact, quite a number of them have injuries that would prevent a pro career that might otherwise have happened. Here on our show, we've got Adam blew out his arm and lost 6 miles an hour on his fastball, and that was the end of his baseball career. Mm-hmm. So that is an issue for a lot of student athletes.
Go away, Nick.
Go
away.
And then a final thought on that. We've got, from Brigham Young University, my alma mater, we've got a quarterback that's probably going to go second in the draft this year. And the reason he entered the draft early instead of finishing his collegiate athletic career is when you can enter and make millions of dollars early, you're not going to go back to college and risk an injury in your senior year just to play for your team. And that's more and more when a student athlete is able to market themselves in the draft and make millions of dollars, they're not going to finish their education or come back and finish their collegiate career. So,
okay, Fernando. Now, listen. Why can't? Because as Jeff just clearly enunciated, this could be the time during that 1 year, 2 year, or 4 year period, barring injury for these student athletes. It could be the one time that they are on top of the mountain. Why can't they profit from their own likeness and image? Why can't they, be a social influencer in the modern day? And why shouldn't they get paid, Fernando?
Okay, so you're asking a different question now. Name, image, and likeness, that was already established in the O'Bannon versus NCAA case, which were the O'Bannon brothers who were power forwards for UCLA, and they sued because the NCAA had a video game And in that video game, although they weren't saying their name, they were using their likeness and their number on the team. And they sued because they said they should derive profits from that video game. And the Supreme Court, if I remember correctly, said that yes, they should. So now several states have started passing what are known as NIL laws, name, image, and likeness statutes. That's completely different from saying they should derive a paycheck for playing football, baseball, basketball, or which would be the only ones that would draw revenue. I'm not even going to mention chess, which is just useless. It's a bunch of flabby eggheads who can barely walk across the street or pull their own chairs. Who pull their own chairs. And if I dropped them in a subway, they wouldn't be able to figure their way out of them. But you know, I'm the mental midget, and yes, I do know how to play chess also. But since I had athletic ability, I didn't have to concentrate on playing chess to try and figure out how to pick up girls or get a scholarship. You know, the abandoned case settled that portion of what you bring up in your statement. If we're arguing just straight compensation for playing sports, I'm going to say no. And I'll use Georgetown as an example because they're not in a power conference. To go to Georgetown, me as a regular student, room, board, tuition, all the extras is going to be around $78,000 a year. That a scholarship athlete on the Georgetown basketball team, that's what they're getting. There are incoming first-year associates at small to mid-sized firms that aren't making that in salary. They're making about $50,000 after 7 years of school.
Come on, Fernando. The NCAA for that.
Come on.
No, for that same 70,000, they're making 1.2 billion. I mean,
and
they're making 1.2 billion. So listen,
guess what?
Let's say a school gets 100 million, and the dude's only getting 70,000. That's called underpayment.
But Bill,
guess what? My employer is making millions upon millions of dollars that I'm not seeing.
But Bill, let Fernando
that's the way it goes.
Communist
and not for nothing. After the 4 years that's there, it's about $300,000. All right, the kid's gonna graduate because right now, from what I saw on the Georgetown basketball team, those guys are good enough to play at that level. Chances are they aren't going to get drafted, and they probably aren't going to catch on. Maybe they'll catch on in Europe for a while, and that's what happens with most of these athletes. So they're going to graduate from these big programs. They're going to have connections it doesn't have, and they're going to come out with better jobs than the average student is when they graduate from these power colleges and power institutions. You know, so no, they shouldn't be getting a paycheck. You use their image and likeness? Yes. At that point, yes, they should get paid. And the abandoned case, that's what it says.
Okay, Guidry, Adam, Nick, and Jeff. So let me put you guys in order. Guidry, you're front and center. And then, okay, go ahead. Guidry, please.
So I agree with Fernando. And I think if I'm not mistaken, there are 3 states, Colorado, California, and Florida, that are already incorporating this law. And Florida will start the first when it comes to protecting the likeness and image of the athlete. The same thing when Fernando was talking about, I understand that the system, the college sports have changed significantly since 100+ years ago when NCAA enacted those rules. But we also have to understand that also it wasn't in the beginning that all the games, conferences, tournaments were televised highly, market. Also the coaches right now, the caliber of college coaches is also much higher. So there is a lot of work put into growing that superstar athlete who later is going to proceed somewhere else. And the analogy about, with the issue, if those athletes make 1.2 billion to the institution, they should get compensated more. I was thinking about Jeff Bezos. Also, he makes much more money than people who provide various services within Amazon. So the core question right now, an issue that we're talking about, is really still living or giving the NCAA some place to maneuver. So right now we are talking about educational benefits. Educational benefits can be extended, but to a certain extent. What NCAA does not want to do is to pay for play.
I know, right.
College would become professional.
Right. Okay, Adam, as I come to you, I want to relate a story from my youth. And I began college at Whittier College in Southern California. And a good friend of mine was an athlete. And as part of his quote unquote educational benefit package that allowed him to, be, a superhero for the Whittier poets, he was given a job on campus serving food. So, and that was part of his duties. So here was a student athlete, unlike Fernando's view of people being pampered, a student athlete generating revenue for the university, and then as part of his educational benefit package, he was serving meals. Adam, tell me what happened to you once your arm went bad at USC.
He went to law school.
Graduated magna cum laude from USC, then went to Ohio State, NYU, and Alabama, and I'm now a professor. Now, let me start off by saying this with regards to.
It went bad, buddy, and then you lost your way.
Stop focusing on the negative, Bill. It's unattractive. Now, with regard to Nick's comment about chess, I'd rather get a colonoscopy than watch a chess match. Number two, these athletes are getting paid in the form of six-figure scholarships. They are amateurs, and they're there for an education. What universities need to do with the revenue that they generate from sports like football is to create scholarships for low-income communities, for people who can't access education. They need to use that money to open up pathways for people to get equality of opportunity, not to enrich Tua Tagovailoa, okay, or Mac Jones. And Bill, number three, I'm very disappointed in you because you've previously been a champion for the military, and now it seems like you're a champion for capitalism. I believe in using this money to help more people, not to enrich one person. And the last thing I'll say is the solution to this problem, if you really want to pay athletes, is you separate college sports from universities and you make it a minor league system, kind of like minor leagues in baseball. So you'd have like minor league football instead of college football. Then you can pay them. That's the solution. That's the way we need to go. And I'd like to hear somebody address that. As far as you go, Nick, with chess, I'd prefer that we not hear about that anymore because it's, kind of really boring.
I'm putting this program on all the chess sites.
No.
You'll get your hate mail.
Nick,
You'll get your hate mail.
No, Nick, you're next on the list, and I'm coming to you, Jeff. So, Nick, you're right on time.
Well, okay. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Look, it doesn't surprise me that our lady from Lithuania is okay with restraint of trade and monopolistic practices because she grew up in a communist system where people and free markets were not enjoyed. And so they're used to the state telling you what to do. In this case, we have the state. It's called the NCAA telling you what to do. Do you know there were people that fled Cuba, Fernando, because they wanted freedom to negotiate? But you're okay with this restraint of trade. I think maybe your family should go back to Cuba and listen to what Fidel Castro has to tell you what to do. No, but you think it's okay for the NCAA to engage in monopolistic practices and people won't allow the free market to dictate the value of their services. I don't think the justices think this is okay, and rightfully so. So I'm waiting for this NCAA to get stricken down. It is an abusive, monopolistic practice that basically destroys all the ambition and the ability to make money that rightfully deserves that student athletes should be receiving.
Here.
Bill, Nick needs to apologize to Guidry for insulting Russia like this.
I didn't insult Russia. I said Lithuania. I didn't mention Russia.
No. Everybody insults Russia. She's from Lithuania.
Lithuania, that's a different
country. How xenophobic.
Hey, Adam, stop trying to hijack this conversation, please. I got to go to Jeff, and then I got to go to Fernando. But Fernando, I'm giving you time because Nick just really called you out. I mean, with Cuban baseball players. I mean, I don't know how it happens.
But the Cuban baseball players don't get paid. I mean, he's okay with that.
Well, fine. But Jeff, I have this one question. I mean, Adam, for whatever reason, believes that you can't support the military, you can't be a liberal Democrat, and you can't be a capitalist all at once. I don't know where he's coming from. Now, that's not necessarily a question, Jeff. I just wanted to throw that shot out to Adam. But Jeff, you've heard everything else going on. I mean, why can't they profit? I mean, billions of dollars being made. Coaches are making tens of millions each year. Jeff, what are you thinking?
Well, Seth Waxman's argument about coaches was that they differentiate between coaches and players because they say players are amateurs, but coaches are professionals like professors and university presidents. I would like to take this discussion back to the legal premise that this case exists on, which is antitrust. Now, I heard Justice Breyer argue, I don't think the Supreme Court is even qualified to run the NCAA. And what if we tell them that they have to do it in a particular way and everybody stops watching and schools stop making money and everything because we've made a ruling that is really boneheaded. And on the other side, I saw Justice Gorsuch argue that you can't really differentiate between the NFL and the NCAA, for example, and claim that you have two different products that are competitive. He said the NCAA, when it comes to college sports, is the market. And so why would you get to regulate the price of labor and put in price controls in college sports when you are the market and you do have a monopoly? And that is an argument that seemed persuasive to a lot of the other justices that spoke out on it. And I think it's particularly persuasive to them because they know that most of these kids aren't going to make it in the pros, and that some of them are going to be injured. And so they come out having been drained and schools making millions and millions of dollars off of their efforts. Some of them injured and maimed for life, and some of them just, without a reasonable education because of what they sacrificed for their sport. So I think that the direction it's going is to allow looser definitions of educational expenses to allow schools to compensate athletes in other ways and make scholarships bigger and broader and include more things than they have in the past.
Okay, Fernando, that is the direct argument or counter argument to your position that they shouldn't get paid. I mean, Jeff has just enunciated and delineated why it is true. The athletes may suffer misfortune. They may never get to the pros. In the meantime, the schools are profiting. And why shouldn't, while the time that they are there for the services that they provide, in any way, shape, or form, shouldn't that, does that even resonate or cause you to rethink the way you're thinking about your position, Fernando?
No. And if that's the case, then I should have gotten paid to sit in class and listen to some of those professors drone on and on and on nonsense. The way I'm pretty sure Nick's students are wishing they're getting paid instead of them paying him to hear him talk nonsense about the tax code. UB should have paid me because I graduated and I didn't become a super lawyer. So since I'm not a super lawyer in the state of New York, which is something that you can, through buying ads and stuff you can get, but that's a different subject for a different day. They should have paid me, and they should have,
In your rant, don't leave out the professor down in Georgia. I mean,
Can I say something?
No,
I'm on for today. For today, I'm on his side. So you know what? I'll leave him alone for today. There'll be other ample opportunities where he's going to ask for an apology, and unless he's bald, it's never coming. But
first of all, I'm waiting for your apology that you should apologize to me and Deidre.
That's the same argument, that should be stated because there's plenty of kids that go to law school and drop out. The school profited from the tuition that they took from them. They're not giving it back. Once you pay it, we're keeping it. I agree with Adam in terms of a minor league system, but baseball already has one. And the advantage that baseball has is a lot of kids, they can come right out of actually at the age of 16, they can start playing professional baseball if they get drafted. Basketball used to be able to come out of high school and go into basketball, and they cut that off. So now you get a lot of one and dones, that guys that are at the top. But now basketball has created a somewhat minor league system in the G League, where they do get a salary and they can hone their craft and then pick up and get a contract. Or they could do what the LeVar Ball's kid did, which was go and play in Europe, after he got arrested in China trying to steal Louis Vuitton bags. He left UCLA and then started playing in China. Football is the one that's a harder of these because I don't think an 18-year-old can put up the pounding of the NFL. You probably need a couple of more years. As for Nick's nonsense about Cuba, yeah, Cuban baseball players affected here and made tons of money. And the Cubans came to Miami and turned it into a vacation destination instead of a retirement place where you would go to die, where your kids would ship you off. You know, the NCAA needs to kind of stay in place to a degree. And I agree with the Ninth Circuit's decision to keep money bags like Nick from going around and getting call girls and throwing parties for recruits that are coming to the University of Miami
That's
football
exactly
team.
right.
And you know, bribing the system.
Okay, Fernando, we have to curb the scurrilous accusations. And Adam, I'm coming to you, but first I gotta get Guidry back in because I can't have anybody going to sleep on me. But Adam, I have a question for you. Except Guidry, you've heard these colleagues of yours try to describe and explain what they're thinking. But Jeff raises a very interesting question, and that is back to the antitrust nature of this. The NCAA dominates the marketplace, but they claim that they are providing options for the student athletes or competition, but they're really not. They control the labor, and then they control the prices. Deidre, do you see that as a violation?
So, yeah. So unpacking the antitrust law, and particularly mentioned also by Nick, as an example or comparison to NCAA NFL. So NFL primary focus is to make profit, whereas NCAA primary focus is to enhance athlete-student educational experience while studying at universities. Now, the question goes, the second question is that we have to look into is whether the courts have authority to decide on the on such practice as it is happening right now, competitive practice, or would it be the legislators' duty to do so? So right now, we're really spilling over what is allowed or what is accepted or has been accepted by the courts. Going back to antitrust, prior to now, most of the antitrust cases involve the regulation, common regulation of certain product that would affect or increase the price of certain product for the consumer. Here, we're talking about labor, but now again, let's go back to the labor. We have an institution that primarily focuses on education. So therefore, that antitrust argument should be applied here, and the NCAA should be categorized and looked at as different specific model that should be addressed a little bit different than other profit-making institutions.
Okay, Adam, antitrust or not antitrust? I mean, listen, are you going to be Teddy Roosevelt here and trust bust or bust trusts? I mean, what, Adam? What's your position? Because the
you guys are so far in the weeds. It's ridiculous. Guidry is 100% right. You know, I am the only one on this show who proposes actual and workable solutions.
Oh,
you have Nick who is viciously attacking Guidry and her home country, and Nick needs to apologize for that. And you have you making everything about race. Now, let me tell you what I said before. We need to have college sports decoupled, separated from university. We need to have a minor league football system. We need to have a minor league basketball system, a minor league soccer system. That way, people going to college can make money in that minor league system, but they can also attend colleges where they get an education, and the focus of that college is education. That is the answer. And I've said it 3 times now.
No, I don't care.
I've heard nothing except racial, incitement and attacking Guidry that Nick did, which is appalling.
Adam, this is not a platform for your general grievances from Georgia.
I proposed a specific solution. That solution works because it allows athletes to get paid and educational institutions to remain as their primary purpose, to educate students.
I appreciate that. Nick, because Adam is just Georgia's grievances.
Yeah, he's just flapping his mouth off. But I agree with what Jeff was saying, and this is the reason why the NCAA is going to get it on the chin. First of all, it's antitrust. I know that Adam missed that course as he was out rowing for USC. But on antitrust, the first thing you look at the test, is it a monopoly? And the answer is yes. Next step, did they restrain trade? And the answer is yes. Is it to the detriment of labor? the answer is yes, even though Fernando believes that it's okay to restrain labor because that's what they do in Cuba. But this is the United States of America, Fernando, and
How xenophobic.
labor has the right to negotiate for what they so deserve. And so, and fourth is that there are race element, and there might be one, Bill. It wasn't before the court. There might be one. And so the thing is, when you add up all these elements, I can't wait to the day, it'll probably be in June, that the NCAA meets a bully for the first time, bigger than them, the Supreme Court of the United States.
Jeff and then Fernando, please. Jeff.
Well, I summarized what Justice Gorsuch was saying when I talked about this earlier. Justice Kagan said something very similar. Somebody on the, if you will, far right of the court and somebody on the far left. Justice Kagan said, we know that the market would support much higher compensation if not for all universities cooperating together in restraint of trade. She said, times have changed over 100 years. The way of the amateur is not what it used to be. She also said, we can understand why if you're going to create a market for sports and you're going to have many different teams, that those teams are going to have to agree on things like how many players can be on the field and what the dimensions of the field are and what the rules of the game are, that they have to cooperate on those. But she said, why do they have to cooperate on the cost of labor? And that seems to be where she was finding a potential antitrust violation. I think that's the direction the court is headed on this. Now, in terms of Adam's suggestion that we say create minor league football, I think that actually feeds into the NCAA's argument, because I mean, I had a cousin, my cousin's husband played minor league baseball. As anybody that has played in that league knows, they don't make any money yet. They're professional athletes, but they're not considered the ones in the top league. And so they get, they play for peanuts, and he happened to blow out his arm like Adam did and had to go find another career. I believe that the reason why collegiate athletics is as popular as it is because of the tie to the universities, and because they are seen as amateur athletes by the public. Some people are upset at the outrageous salaries that professional athletes make, and they want to watch the amateurs. They also have traditions, associated with various different schools. I mean, you had Bear Bryant at Alabama, legendary coach, and so on. So could someone create a collegiate football team that is not tied to a college and try to schedule games and, see if somebody would admit them into a conference? You could try it, but I don't think it would go anywhere. I don't think it'd work. And that feeds the argument that Mr. Waxman was making, that, well, we offer a different product than the pro leagues.
No. I got that part. I mean, now you've got me dusting off my books and sneezing.
Can I respond to that?
No. Actually, I'm coming to you, but before Adam, stop hogging, please. Stop hogging. We got Fernando, we got Guidry, and then Adam, I'm coming to you. Please. Fernando, anything you heard has changed your mind yet, or no? Because you're down there in the Big Apple, or up there in the Big Apple. But I mean, seriously, doesn't somebody get paid for the work they do?
No, because it isn't work in that sense.
It's not
They're coming to school for free. That's number one.
No. Fernando, I remember a time that you and I played softball on concrete in the middle of Manhattan.
Okay.
League. Right. That wasn't.
And then I should have gotten paid for that. Based on your argument.
For it.
There was an intramural league sponsored by Fordham University. I should have gotten paid for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought you were a great pitcher. But
Well, I was playing shortstop. But,
listen. So I'm saying, just because you got screwed, do you mean that the future generations get screwed too? That we can't change the rules?
That's just it. A, I didn't get screwed. B, none of those student athletes are getting screwed, who are getting free room and board, and they're getting free tuition, And in a lot of these power conferences, power schools, they are set up in their own separate dorms away from the other students. They get all sorts of other perks that regular students aren't making. They get to meet people like Nick way before I did. They get to meet other power brokers in various areas of business that I'm never going to get to meet. You know, Nick brings up his antitrust analysis. Yes, the first one, is it a monopoly? I think he left out, then you go and see if it was a natural monopoly or a monopoly that grew because they crushed all the competition, which was part of the Standard Oil antitrust cases. And if it's a natural monopoly that grew because there was no one else in the market, if I remember my course, I don't think it's labeled a monopoly. And in this instance, the NCAA is just serving one purpose, one league. There isn't going to be another NCAA that's going to come out and compete against them to draw schools. It was just a natural outgrowth to collect all the schools and have some sort of governing body so that there are some sort of standards as to what's going to happen. And those standards have evolved over time, especially as sports have gotten bigger and alumni have contributed more and more.
Right.
And you have boosters and all this other stuff.
And look, salaries have gone up, and one study has shown that over the course, while all this money has been flowing in, the average compensation educationally for these athletes has gone down over time, which means that they are cheating. They're cheating them. So you say $70,000, they're putting them on the cheap, like $50,000. And yet everybody else is getting paid, Fernando.
Well, depending on what sports you're talking about, because you brought up tennis and golf, for example. Sports and chess. I don't count chess as sport. You're sitting there twiddling your thumbs, and you're eating. If you can sit there and eat Doritos and drink soda as you're playing, it's not a sport.
No, Fernando. Please.
Now,
Bobby Fischer was overrated.
Or if you're sitting there drinking a bowl of borscht as you're moving pieces across a board, I don't consider it a sport.
That's right.
But I'm going to send these clips over to all the websites.
Other than the power sports, such as football and basketball, the other minor sports, they don't have as many scholarships. For example, swimming, tennis, soccer, golf. So in tennis and golf, you're right. They let them go compete in the amateur ranks because a lot of those guys probably aren't getting scholarships, and they're going to leave school anyway if they're any good. If they're any good.
No. Deidre, no, because Fernando,
you just don't like it because you want them to get paid come hell or high water, and they don't deserve it, whether you like it or not.
Right.
It's not labor.
I don't.
Gary Kasparov was overrated too.
Okay, I'm done with hearing you prattle on. And Deidre, and then Adam, I'm coming to you. Please don't interrupt Deidre this time. Deidre, I'm coming to you, and then Adam, I'm coming to you, and then Nick. Oh, get out your back, Nick.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks everyone. But so I want to ask all of us to be real here. We are talking about student amateur sports that should require more work, more grind, not a lot of compensation. My fear is that if we increase the salary or give this different universities ability to compensate for certain athletes, then we're going to destroy the amateur sports by increasing that competitiveness. Even now, at this point, colleges all over the United States are manipulating NCAA standards and requirements for the compensation of the athletes. So then the question is, how many bright lines do we need to draw, and then who would be policing such practices of universities and colleges, which we know are happening, and will be happening in the future. So right now, the lower court agreed that the educational benefits should be extended, that the definition of educational benefits to the athletes should be extended. I agree with it. We're talking about internship, we're talking about postgraduate experience, but when it comes to ability to compensate or recruit an athlete and provide more space for the universities to do so, then we definitely are going to lose the amateur sport and college part. We're going to have a problem there.
Okay, and I hate to say this, but Adam, please, your turn. Don't take up too much time, Adam. Seriously.
Take all
Well,
the time you want. Adam.
First of all, Bobby Fischer was overrated. The only legit chess player was Boris Spassky, but we'll get to that later. Now, what I want to say is this. When you talk about Supreme Court decisions, the Supreme Court's in the weeds. The Supreme Court always makes incremental decisions that never solve any social problems. I have offered a solution here tonight, and the solution is simple. Athletes should participate in minor league organizations such as football, soccer, tennis that are decoupled from universities. So, for example, you would have a college football team from Alabama, from Massachusetts, from New Jersey. And given the revenue that college football and basketball generates, I'm sure these athletes would get paid a substantial amount of money. And in so doing, educational institutions would return to their primary function, which is to educate students. And that would solve the problem. And that's where we need to go. Bold solutions need to happen, not incremental solutions, okay? And unless we have that, then we're going to be talking about this in perpetuity, and that's not right.
Nick. Yeah.
Well, I know the mental midgets hate to hear the chess model that actually does work as they receive scholarships. I had two students, one, Kazim Gulamari, he went out, he played for Clayton State University, then he went out and he won $40,000 at a tournament in Las Vegas, and that's okay. Then another guy, Will Stewart, won $10,000 at a tournament. That's okay, he still played for the University of Georgia. That model actually works and can be adopted by the NCAA. The reason it's not being adopted is this. It is a monopoly, okay? They do restrain trade. They do it to the detriment of labor. It fits all the things that are wrong with America. Maybe fine in Cuba, maybe fine in Lithuania, but Americans, you should have the right to negotiate for your labor and not have to face a monopoly that says your labor is valueless. Now, according to Fernando, we get free room and board. Go tell the slaves that in the U.S. South. Hey, dude, you got free room and board. What's your beef? And we paid you all the same. I don't see the problem, but there is a problem. Okay, and if you part of the problem that I see, Fernando, is you don't see the problem, and that's the reason why we have these discussions, debates. But I believe the Supreme Court is going to come down on the right side of justice in this, and they're going to toss the NCAA.
Okay, and that brings me to Jeff. No, Adam, no, that brings me to Jeff because I didn't raise the race issue. Nick did. Jeff, please, your best friend, Nick. Jeff, please.
Well, again, bringing it back to the antitrust context, I think the issue is really whether the competition that the antitrust laws envision is best applied to competition between the NCAA and the NFL, for example, for viewership, or whether the NCAA is the market. If you define the market as the NCAA, then I think Justice Kagan and Justice Gorsuch are right that you can't really regulate the cost of labor. Now, I know a number of the justices, including particularly Justice Alito, are very concerned about the fact that they're using these kids up, that they're impairing their educational opportunity at times because they have to devote so much time to their sport. And the very few of them ultimately make it in the pros and get a payoff for playing. I remember a kid named Luke Staley that played at BYU. He won the Doak Walker Award for the best collegiate running back in the country. Mm-hmm. And he blew out a knee, completely missed being able to make it in the NFL, never made any money, and now the guy can't sleep at night because he's in so much pain with his knees and his back. I mean, he literally drives around all night because he can't sleep. He sleeps in very short increments, and I think, well, there's a guy who gave everything and really got nothing out of it in the end. Great college running back, could have been a great pro running back if not for the injuries. But again, I think it's the Luke Staleys of the league that Justice Alito is concerned about, and suggesting that somebody else is making all the money for all the risks he's taking.
You can jump in, Adam. The den
Oh,
master
I'd love to
left.
jump in. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Why the hell is Elena Kagan and Neil Gorsuch and Samuel Alito even deciding this issue? What expertise do they have to pass judgment on this? It's ridiculous. I offered a solution. Unless we actually propose real bold solutions, all we're going to be doing is talking about this on a show like The Lawyer's Den. There's going to be no fucking progress. And I'm tired of this. I want to see people legislate. I want to see people enact policies that really make a change instead of talking about what Elena Kagan's going to do. All right? I proposed a solution. I want to hear other solutions, and I want there to be action instead of this academic discussion that goes nowhere and just fills up time and never leads to any purposeful change.
Academic. This is in front of the Supreme Court, and there's a law called.
I don't care about the Supreme Court. They are not qualified to pass any judgment on this issue.
Well,
Legislators and the democratic process needs to be acting,
Adam,
not the courts.
Adam, you know what I'd like to hear? I'd like to hear less swearing. I mean, really, you have an LLM. I mean, don't you have a
He didn't get his LLM in antitrust law.
I know.
Because, Bill, a lot of these discussions involve public policy. They involve proposing changes, not getting into the weeds, which is what these justices are doing.
Adam,
Neil Gorsuch has no business talking about the NCAA. Who are these 9 unelected justices that are passing judgment on this?
Okay,
We
fine.
need real legislators who are going to really effectuate change.
Antitrust, monopoly,
I might want to
rate of trade.
You guys don't really care about solutions. You just care about the discussion, and it's a waste of time.
Adam, please, may I? I'm begging you, please. I mean, I just find this so funny. And it's just an observation, Adam. It's just that, Neil Gorsuch is an originalist in the constitutional school of thought that you are. I find that funny that you now attack him. On the one hand, I find it funny that the rest of our panels can't get a word in because you're just throwing Molotov cocktails, and yet you say that we can't have a legitimate.
You need to apologize for that ridiculous statement immediately.
Okay.
You guys need to apologize to 600 million
That is absurd.
players.
Okay,
that you insulted.
You insult the only person that proposes actual solutions, while the rest of you say nothing.
Are you sure the solution already works? Go look at Webster University.
You insulted Russia. You've been terrible
University
tonight.
of Texas
It's just very
and
sad.
Okay, all right.
Come on.
Jeff, Guidry, please. Jeff first, Guidry, because I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I've addressed Adam's solution before. I'll touch on it again. I think the idea of a minor league football and minor league basketball is a nice idea, but the reason that the NCAA schools make what they make on these sports is that they're tied to a university. You have traditions like the annual Army-Navy game.
Right.
Here in Utah, we have BYU against Utah. It's called the Holy War every year. That's a tradition that has taken decades and decades to develop. And you have those rivalries, those traditions, your mascots, your team colors, all of it. I went to BYU 100 years ago, but I'm still a Cougar fan. If that became some sort of a minor league team unassociated with my university, I'd probably lose interest. And I think people want to support the team from the university that they went to. And
right.
I think without that, then clearly they just would be another minor league team. Right. And what's your eligibility? Is it 4 years? Is it 10 years?
No. Okay, I got that.
Minor league football for 20
and the University of Miami, we went to the U, baby. We want to pay our student athletes.
No, Nick.
Doug Flutie,
1985. Nick, you're going to get yours, but I got to go Guidry and then Fernando.
Well, you can't go too far because we're at the hour, Bill.
I know. I need Guidry and then I need Fernando, closing thoughts, and I'm coming to you, Nick. I mean, you guys make it unmanageable.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, so in these like reoccurring theme is to abilities for universities, ability and responsibility to be able to take care of the athletes who have been injured during the sports activity or competitions. So and right now we know that universities take exponentially high insurance policies on its athletes. Why not incorporate certain element if in case some kind of damage happens, to be able to compensate and help those student athletes? And also another suggestion would be why we should not focus on also scholarships based on the financial necessity, because we know that, yes, there is racial argument, I will agree with it, and there are a lot of athletes who definitely might need more financial help than the others. So if we incorporate those two elements, then maybe we could move forward and in agreeing that it is not violating antitrust policy, and that the NCAA is really focusing on completely different products such as college sports.
She's 100% right.
No, Adam, stop. Fernando.
100%.
Oh, Fernando, please follow Guidry's lead, and then I got to go to Nick because Nick gets really nutty about time.
Yeah, I agree with the Ninth Circuit decision that when it comes to educational benefits, they should be unlimited when you're going to, especially to one of these power conferences. I don't believe that student athletes should be paid. The other arguments that we never got into is which athlete gets paid what, because some are better than others. Are you going to pay the starter the same that you're going to pay the guy that's riding the bench who's never going to see the field? Smaller schools, those schools in the 1A conferences, Division 2, 3, they aren't going to be able to afford to pay their students, and you're going to eliminate some great historic programs such as the Fordham baseball team, which the first Hispanic baseball player in the major leagues back in 1870 is a Fordham graduate who was Cuban. And the University of Miami is already paying their players because I'm sure Nick is sending them money and women and cars and whatever they want.
Okay, thank you, Fernando. Nick, I didn't think it was going to end this way.
Nick, baby.
Help me land this plane. Oh.
Yeah, we better take off, and we better take off while the NCAA crashes. And for those watching the show, watch the big crash of the NCAA coming up in June, and rightfully so. And then for the first time, people actually get paid the value of their labor without being suppressed like they do in Cuba, Lithuania, and other countries. And with that, we'd like to thank you for watching The Lawyer's Den. And Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political.